Are you planning to visit Japan? Visiting a new country can be intimidating and sometimes overwhelming, but with these tips, you'll be spending more time enjoying your trip than worrying about it. Make sure you watch to the end so you could travel to Japan in confidence. So let's get started. Before you even get on a plane to Japan, you should download the Suica card on your phone. The Suica card is a must-have when using public transportation in Japan. They are accepted for the subway, buses, and even payments at convenience stores and vending machines in Tokyo. New physical Suica cards have been discontinued due to chip shortages, but you can get the electronic version of the Suica card on your phone. Having the Suica card on your phone makes it so much easier to load and tap. You won't have to find a ticket machine at the metro station again. You can load the Suica card directly in Apple Wallet or Google Pay by selecting the amount of Japanese yen you want to load and which credit card to charge. On the iPhone, you can enable the transit card feature in settings, so you won't even have to unlock your phone when you tap in and out. Be sure to download and load the Suica card a few days before flying to Japan, as you may run into issues with your credit card blocking the Suica transactions. This happened to us a few days before the trip. And before leaving Japan, you may want to empty out your Suica card unless you want to leave a balance there. A good way to empty it is at the airport or a convenience store by making a purchase with your Suica card. Don't worry if you don't have enough funds, you can load the card up to exactly what you need to pay off your last transaction. Now, I'm sure you've heard about the JR Pass and that it can save you big bucks. But is it really worth it? While it's true that you can save money, depending on your itinerary, it may not be worth it as they recently increased the price by a lot. The JR Pass is commonly used for traveling between cities on Shinkansen or the bullet trains and on JR routes. So I suggest you map out your routes on Google Maps to see whether you'll be riding on a JR train or not, since the JR Pass does not cover all subways, buses, or train routes in Japan. Just remember that you can activate your JR Pass midway through your trip or buy a shorter time frame pass if you don't need the pass for a part of your trip. And speaking of Google Maps, that leads us to the next tip. What is the best way to get around Japan? Sure, there are taxis, Ubers, but those cost a fortune compared to what the subway or buses cost. Public transportation is by far the cheapest and most convenient way to get around. Japan's public transportation network can be overwhelming, but Google Maps will help you navigate through Japan in a breeze. Provides various routes, the quickest and most cost-effective way to get around with detailed instructions including subway entry or exit numbers, which train car you should hop on so it's closest to the exit, and the full bus and train schedule in case you missed it. Their public transportation is also the most punctual system we've ever seen, so make sure you're on time. Just know, each city has its own metro or bus network, and depending on how many days you're exploring the area, it may be worth looking into getting a day pass or a multi-day pass for that city. Bonus tip, it's a good idea to download the offline maps in Google Maps for an area that you're exploring in case the internet is spotty, especially in remote areas. Since you'll be relying on Google Maps for most of the time, having Wi-Fi is absolutely necessary. That brings us to the next tip. You can either use an eSIM or get a portable Wi-Fi router at the airport. We recommend you reserve this before you arrive to Japan, as we saw some travelers trying to get a pocket Wi-Fi at the airport, but they were all booked. Since staying connected to the internet is a must for navigation, we recommend bringing a few power banks to ensure you can charge your electronics while on the go. These are rentable too at the airport. Now, it's always a good idea to bring some cash when you're visiting a new country, but how much do you need for Japan? Although some areas of Japan are developed, it's still a good idea to bring some cash and multiple credit cards. In our case, we brought about 150,000 yen for a 2-week trip for two and came back with about 30,000 yen. And that's with us using credit cards wherever possible and splurging on food. Street vendors and touristy spots like the Tsukiji fish market only accept cash, while some stores accept credit cards requiring your PIN, so no tapping is allowed. Be sure to know your PIN, else it may be difficult to reset it while abroad. That's exactly what happened to us because of someone and the bank said we needed to visit a local branch back at home to reset it, which wasn't very helpful. So it's always a good idea to bring a few credit cards just in case one gets blocked. If you made it to this part of the video, please consider subscribing and smashing the like button. It really helps the channel, especially for a small one like ours, and keep watching for more tips. The next tip is for eating out, and you'll soon realize what restaurants don't provide. Most restaurants in Japan don't provide tissues or napkins, so you should carry some when you go out. That explains the pack of tissues that our hotel provided us in our welcome kit. We were wondering why on earth we needed so much tissues, but it all made sense after we went to our first restaurant. Alternatively, if your hotel doesn't provide any, you can always buy some at the convenience stores. As you spend your first day exploring Japan, you'll soon realize another strange phenomenon. It's extremely difficult to find a garbage can, yet the streets are very clean. So what do you do with all the trash you need to throw out? Well, you kinda don't until you find one or you get back to the hotel. And that's why it's recommended to carry a bag around to hold any trash as you explore the city. Japan is known for clean streets, so let's do our part to keep it that way. The next tip is going to help you find the best restaurants, but it's not Google reviews. While Google review is a helpful start, keep in mind majority of the reviewers are also tourists. Locals use another site called Tablelog. It's important to note that the locals are sometimes harsh at the reviews, so any reviews over 4.0 on the site is considered really good. So if you want to dine where the locals love, Tablelog is the best place to check. At peak times, if a restaurant's not busy, that's usually not a good sign. We tried an empty restaurant in Omoda Yokocho, and because we were starving, we didn't want to wait. We regretted it immediately. The food and service was just terrible, and we now understand why it was empty. Now that you found a restaurant you want to try, how do you make a reservation? You can always try walking in, but the lineups for restaurants in Japan can be quite long, and unfortunately, Table Lock doesn't take reservations. So you have 4 choices. You either wait in line or add your name to a wait list. If you know Japanese, you could call the restaurant, but if you don't, you can always ask the hotel concierge to help. An alternative is to use a site called Table Check. Yes, Table Check, not Table Log. For popular restaurants, we suggest you book a few months in advance to avoid any disappointment. Lastly, you could try to see if the restaurant has a reservation system on their website, which most don't, so the other methods may work better. Bonus tip, if a popular restaurant doesn't have a reservation system, try going at the off hours to avoid wasting time lining up. On some days, we had lunch at 10 a.m., dinner at 5 p.m., which also gives us enough time to have a second dinner at 10 p.m. There's just so much to eat, but so little time. Continuing on our food tips, a balanced diet is always important when traveling. When you're on the road, you often don't get all the nutrients you need, and in Japan, it's hard to eat enough vegetables at all the sushi and ramen restaurants. A delicious way to get some fruit and veggie intake are the fruit smoothies at 7-Eleven. They come in 4 different flavors: strawberry banana, kale pineapple, double berry yogurt, and mango pineapple. And the best part, they're only 300 yen each. You can blend it at the store and take it to go. And you know what? They definitely increase your chances of using the endless bidets in Japan. And our final tip will ease all your concerns about the language barrier question. Can you get around in Japan without knowing Japanese? The short answer is yes. Signs at the airport and public transportation stations all have English translations. Most front desk employees at hotels and customer service workers know at least some English. However, there are some restaurants or places that only have a Japanese menu, and this is where Google Translate comes in handy. There's a feature within Google Translate where you just point your camera at the Japanese words and it will provide you with an English translation on the screen. But just note that the translations may not be that accurate, and sometimes it may not even make any sense. Make sure you download the Japanese language in Google Translate prior to arriving in Japan so you could use it without internet. And with that, we hope you enjoyed the video. Please like, subscribe, and comment down below if you found this video helpful in your trip planning. And let us know if you want us to share our Japan itinerary. Thanks for watching!